Water, the source of life. Lake Chad Basin in West and Central Africa is home to 20 million people. And within 20 years, the population of this semi-arid region is predicted to rise to 35 million, dependent on erratic rainfall and wetlands that are shrinking.
The key problem today are related to poor management of water, bringing about loss of biodiversity, destruction of the vegetation cover, increasing erosion, and water scarcity all over the basin.
One of the 4 major wetlands in Africa, Lake Chad Basin is shared by 5 countries: Nigeria, Niger, Chad, the Central African Republic, and Cameroon. The lake varies in size from year to year, but in recent decades has, on occasion, reduced by as much as 80%. The problems are too great for any one community to solve. A partnership was needed.
Because I understand this is the original channel.
No. This is the Hadejia River, and it is that channel which is carrying water that flows right to Lake Chad as Yobe. This channel is a distributor.
We have been working together. We have established an initiative called ChadWet for the promotion of water resources management within the wetlands of the country.
The initial partnership started through a collaborative work between the Lake Chad Basin Commission, LCBC, and the WWF and the Ramsar Convention Secretariat to look at ways to implement the concept of achieving the sustainable management of water within the basin.
Wetlands are very important because they act like natural sponges. When the rain season comes, they are used as natural storage of water, like in a sponge. They fill up with water, and during the dry season, they release progressively the water that is vital for the biodiversity, the fauna, the flora, and the people.
The key to water conservation and the ChadWet partnership is to give important wetlands international status as Ramsar sites. Since the year 2000, 12.5 million hectares of wetland across the basin have been designated as Ramsar sites. The first in Cameroon was 600,000 hectares of the Ouarzelagogne floodplain, while Nguru Lake was the first in Nigeria.
A Ramsar site is a wetland of international importance, and that means certain criteria for listing. Once it's listed, we might attract assistance from government and international donors to improve that site.
The Ramsar sites of the Lake Chad Basin have attracted the support of GEF, the Global Environment Facility, the World Bank, and the United Nations Development Programme. And other partners are already on board, such as the IUCN, the World Conservation Union, which is implementing pilot projects in the basin. In Nigeria, the pilot projects centre around taifa, an invasive grass which has spread like an epidemic across the basin and now blocks hundreds of kilometres of waterways.
Taifa grass is a problem for us. It attracts birds which destroy our crops in the rainy season. It makes it difficult to fish because they hide in the taifa grass, and I believe that people often get typhoid when they drink the water. Finally, though, most importantly, the canals that lead to farms, which are meant to irrigate crops, are no longer flowing well.
Fishermen and farmers downstream in both Nigeria and Niger are suffering from the mismanagement of water upstream. Since the construction of the Tiga Dam in the Komodougou-Yobe river system, the flow of water downstream is now too slow to flush away the silt. River channels have become blocked with silt, and Taifa set seed. It has spread across the whole river system. Blocked channels are causing flooding and major disruption to people's lives around the Nguru Ramsar site.
In the Komodougou-Yobe system, the issue is about too much water on one side and no water at all on the other side. It used to be different, so today the challenge is how to come up with restoration.
To restore water flow at Miga, a pilot project has excavated hundreds of tons of silt from the Kafin Hausa River. Flooding is prevented and more water will reach Lake Chad. Another pilot project is supporting local people as they deal with the Taifa.
We are able, by the grace of God, to talk to all our communities. And all the communities now, many have all come out. And we are really doing a great job to clear the course of the river. This will help greatly to be able to get the cash crops, and you sell the cash crops to buy the foodstuff. So we are happy with this. Yes, please.
Cash crops are a vital part of the economy. 100 million people across Africa depend on food exports from the basin. And fish is big business. Annual fish production from Lake Chad is around 60 to 70,000 tons. On the floodplain of the Lagone River in northern Cameroon, the livelihood of many communities depends on fish. But the fish are disappearing, and the floodplain is drying out. The Lagone River and its floodplain are vital to the survival of the whole basin. The Lagone supplies 20% of the water flowing into Lake Chad, but less rainfall and the construction of the Maga Dam upstream have caused major problems downstream. Signs of desertification can now be found in the heart of the floodplain, right on the Maga Dam.
This plant in this location is a bad sign because it indicates the degradation of the ecosystem. And seeing it in a floodplain is even worse. And you can see it everywhere where the soil is degraded and where desertification is taking place.
In the dry season, there used to be 50 natural ponds scattered across the floodplain, home to thousands of migratory birds. Now, just one pond is left. While the reservoir behind the Maga Dam is home to some hippos, downstream at Waza National Park, the water scarcity is acute.
In 1973 and 74, I was in this national park, Waza National Park, and I could count around this kind of water body, about 2,000 head of kob, this species, the same species. Today, even 10 of them do not have enough to drink.
And over the rest of the plain, 500,000 cattle are competing for water. And 100,000 people. In this village, the community blesses the water and the fishing boat in the hope that the river will continue to sustain them. Poor fish harvests have driven people to dig ditches to trap fish in the wet season. There are now 3,000 private fish canals across the floodplain. The gains have been short-term.
Most of the canals are on the migration routes of fish, which come from Lake Chad to breed in the Lagone floodplain. At the start of the flood, the canals are sealed, which prevents the fish reaching their breeding grounds. And the number of species of fish in the region has reduced considerably, and those caught today are mainly one species, catfish.
In Kaziri village, the chief is well aware of the problems. A ChadWet pilot project is supporting his village to develop a community fishery, an alternative to the fish canals. There is keen anticipation because they have waited a year to harvest this branch of the river near their village. Everyone will eat well tonight, but the chief of Kaziri village is not happy.
The fishing today has been very poor compared to what we had hoped for. And it's a really worrying sign that the fish resource is reaching its limits. It's worrying for us too, because the situation here is a good indicator of the health of the whole basin. So it's necessary that together we look at the ways and means to reverse the trend of degradation. And if we can do that, there is still hope for this area. That is why we are here.
There is hope, if all the village chiefs become as forward-thinking as this. And that is the aim of a pilot project around Lake Chad itself, to discuss the issues with communities like Kaziri, and equally to hear their opinions.
When I visit a village, I like to meet with the chief to build up trust, and I feel this brings better understanding of the problem and better understanding of the way we can cope with the problem.
The ChadWet approach is about partnership, from village to international level.
The partnership is a bit like a table. If you remove one or two of the legs, it will collapse.
Despite the problem, people are still full of hope, full of commitment, and they all need to be supported to work toward a better life within the basin.